When you see an ambulance coming, you typically feel safe. Red lights, white paint, a siren that says help is coming. It's the one vehicle on the road that everyone trusts. You pull over for it, you wave it through. In an emergency, you'd put a family member in the back of one and trust that they would make it safely to the hospital. But what if the people inside that ambulance aren't really there to help anyone? What if they're actually the source of danger? This is the Bihar Ambulance gang rape case. She wanted to be a police officer, that's all. A 26-year-old woman from Imamganj, a small town in the Gaya district of India's eastern state of Bihar, wanted to help people. Her identity was protected by the media, as is common practice for rape and sexual assault cases in India, so we will call her A. And on July 24th, 2025, she showed up at the Bihar military police grounds, ready to prove herself. And the physical test is no joke. Candidates go through running drills, long jump, high jump, all under the heat of the sun. And they're measured against strict standards for height, weight, and physical fitness. For the Bihar military police, these evaluations are critical. They're designed to test your stamina, your speed, your agility, and to weed out anyone who can't handle the demands of the job. Not everyone makes it. People train for months, sometimes years, and still fall short. That day, the air was thick, hot and humid, even by Bihar standards. Candidates were dropping faster than usual, and A was one of them. Somewhere during the endurance run, her body gave out, and she collapsed. Right there on the track, in front of hundreds of other aspirants. What happened next was supposed to be routine. When a candidate faints during a physical test, you get them to a hospital. An ambulance was already stationed at the grounds. They loaded her in. Standard procedure. The nearest hospital was 3.5 kilometers away, a 10-minute drive. She never should have been in danger. A regained consciousness at some point during the drive. She was groggy, disoriented. Her body felt wrong, and she could feel hands on her, touching her in ways that made no sense in an ambulance. She was still too weak to sit up, too dizzy to fight, but she was awake enough to understand what was happening. 3 or 4 men were sexually assaulting her inside that emergency vehicle. She cried out, but the men didn't stop. There was no one else to hear. She was trapped in the ambulance with her attackers. All she could do was wait for it to end, wait for the ambulance to reach the hospital. When it finally arrived, she dragged herself forward with whatever strength she had left. Barely conscious, voice barely above a whisper, she caught the attention of the hospital staff. She told them she had just been gang raped inside the ambulance. Fortunately, they believed her. They called the police, and A was taken for a medical examination right away. The doctors documented everything. The police formed a special investigation team immediately. And they moved fast. A forensics team analyzed the medical examination results and samples collected from inside the ambulance. The Gaya City Superintendent of Police later announced the findings publicly, saying, "We have conducted the medical examination of the victim, which confirmed the gang rape." But that wasn't all the investigation determined. The 3.5-kilometer trip that should have taken 10 minutes, the ambulance took far longer. CCTV footage confirmed what investigators suspected. The vehicle had deviated from its route. It went off course, deliberately, to buy time. Within 2 hours of the investigation being launched, police had identified and arrested 2 suspects. The ambulance driver, Vinay Kumar from the Gaya district, and the emergency medical technician, Aljit Kumar from the Nalanda district. Both were interrogated, and when their answers didn't add up, both were arrested and taken into custody for 14 days. Vinay Kumar and Ajit Kumar were stationed at the event to ensure participant safety. They saw A collapse, and then they were the ones put in charge of her well-being. The victim identified both of them in person. The senior superintendent of police told the media that investigators would soon formally file the charges in court and were seeking a speedy trial. He also said the investigation was still ongoing. A had said 3 or 4 men were inside that ambulance. Only 2 had been arrested. The police said more suspects may be involved and raids were being conducted to find them. And people started asking a basic question: how could this happen? There was zero oversight of that ambulance. No GPS tracking flagged that a 3.5-kilometer trip was taking way too long. No camera was inside that vehicle. No one at the hospital wondered why the ambulance hadn't arrived. It's a serious procedural failure, and it raises a harder question. How many other women have been transported this way with dangerous men in vehicles no one is monitoring? When the case went public, the backlash was fierce, even from within the ruling coalition. Union Minister Chirag Paswan said he regretted supporting a government that couldn't prevent crimes like this. The situation has indeed become scary, he said. The case exploded on social media, especially on X. And as the conversation grew, people started digging up other similar incidents, because this wasn't the first time a woman had been assaulted inside an ambulance. So let me tell you about what happened in the state of Uttar Pradesh roughly a year earlier. On the evening of August 29th, 2024, a woman was trying to save her husband's life. We will call her B. Her husband Harish had been sick for days. He was initially treated at a local hospital, and then when his condition worsened, he was admitted to the Imperial Neurosciences and Multi-Specialty Hospital in the city of Lucknow. But after just 2 days of treatment, the cost crushed B. She couldn't afford another night, so she made the hardest decision: to bring him home on oxygen in a private ambulance and hope for the best. Her brother Anup came along. They set off at night, Harish receiving oxygen in the back, his wife and brother alongside. Now, it's important to be precise here. The police report filed in this case listed charges for homicide, molestation, and wrongful confinement. Most outlets reported as molestation. But some reported the police arrested the ambulance assistant on allegations of attempted rape and robbery, suggesting the conduct may have gone further than groping but stopped short of the legal threshold for rape. Whatever the legal label, what happened over the next 150 kilometers was relentless. The driver told the woman to sit in the front with him and the ambulance assistant. He said it would prevent police from stopping the vehicle at night. She didn't want to, but she agreed. Once they were on the road, both men began groping her, forcing themselves on her. She fought back. She screamed. Harish and her brother in the back started yelling too. It made no difference. The men kept going. Then, near the Chawani police station in Basti, roughly 150 kilometers away from their destination, they pulled over. And what they did next added an extra layer of cruelty. They ripped the oxygen mask from Harish's face before throwing him out of the ambulance and onto the road. They locked the brother in the cabin so he couldn't intervene. They stole 10,000 rupees, which is about $110 from B's purse. They took her jewelry, her ID card, and even her husband's medical records. They let Anup out of the ambulance, and then they took off, leaving the family stranded on a dark road far from home. A woman who had just been assaulted, a brother who had been held hostage, and a dying man who had been deprived of oxygen and thrown to the ground. Her brother managed to call the emergency services, and another ambulance came. Harish was rushed to yet another hospital, but he didn't make it. He was pronounced dead on August 30th. And when B went to a local police station on September 1st to file a complaint, the police turned her away. They told her to go back to Lucknow, 300 kilometers away, where they were initially picked up. Anup went to a different police station the next day. Same thing, dismissed, told to file in Lucknow. After completing her husband's last rites, B had no choice but to travel 300 kilometers back to Lucknow, the city she'd already left, just to find a police station willing to take her complaint. And she was finally able to have her complaint recorded in Lucknow on September 4th, nearly a week after the assault. Police eventually identified the two men. The ambulance assistant was Rishabh Singh. He was arrested and the ambulance was recovered. During interrogation, Rishabh told police that the driver, Suraj Tiwari, had been drunk that night. Tiwari was the one who initiated the assault, he said. Unfortunately, despite multiple police raids, as of September 6, 2024, Tiwari has still not been apprehended. And if you think about that, B was assaulted, she was robbed, she lost her husband, then she was turned away by the police. And after all of that, one of the men who did this to her is still free. And these stories don't end there. There's another recent case from the city of Faridabad. December 29th, 2025, a Monday evening. A 25-year-old woman, we will call her C, visited a friend in a neighborhood across town. She had left home earlier that evening after an argument with her mother. She called her sister and said she'd be back in 2 or 3 hours, but she didn't come back. After leaving her friend's place, C took a small 3-wheel taxi, a rickshaw, to a busy intersection in Faridabad's new industrial township, then walked toward a nearby intersection to catch another ride home. It was past midnight then. Dense fog everywhere, the streets were dead, and as she stood there waiting, 2 men in an ambulance from a private hospital pulled up and offered her a ride. And she got in. Why wouldn't she? It was an ambulance. They locked the doors immediately and they took her phone. Instead of driving toward her home, they drove toward Gurugram, another city entirely. At some point, they parked the vehicle in a remote area. Both men took turns raping her. When they were done, they drove her back toward Faridabad and threw her out at around 3 a.m. She hit the ground hard and she was bleeding from her face. Her right shoulder was fractured. She lay on the road, crying for help. The fog was so thick and the night was so quiet that no one heard her. No one saw her. C, a mother of 3 who had been living with her parents after a dispute with her husband, was now alone, bleeding on a road at 3 a.m. with no phone and no way to get help. Eventually, she managed to call her sister from someone else's phone. Her sister rushed over with the family and they took her to the hospital. She needed 12 stitches on her face. Doctors performed facial surgery on the Saturday to close the deep wounds. A second surgery for her fractured right shoulder was still pending. 6 days after the assault, she was still in the hospital. She was in too much shock to give a full statement to the police. A video surfaced online, purportedly recorded by C, in which she described what happened. "I did not know them before," she said. "As soon as I sat in the car, one of them transferred 600 rupees to my Paytm account, and then they locked the car and snatched my mobile. There was dense fog at night. I cried out loud, but there was no help." Think about the sequence. Transfer money, take the phone, lock the doors. That 600 rupees, worth around $7 was not generosity. It was insurance, a digital receipt designed to look like payment for a service. If they ever got caught, they could point to that transaction and claim it was consensual, that she took money willingly. It's a small transactional amount, not a gift, not a loan. It looks like a payment. And by snatching her phone immediately after, they made sure she couldn't cancel it, couldn't call anyone, and couldn't share her location. This wasn't impulsive, it was planned. The 2 suspects were arrested and taken into custody. A police report was filed for gang rape and criminal intimidation. Their names were not released because an identification lineup still needed to be completed. The Haryana State Commission for Women independently decided to take up the case and begin an official inquiry. They called it a shameful blot on society and demanded a detailed action report from the Faridabad police within 72 hours. Whether they ever got one was never reported. 3 cases, 3 ambulances, 3 women who needed help and were preyed upon by the people driving them. And ambulance staff aren't the only predators. Just 10 days after the Faridabad assault, on January 8th, 2026, a 19-year-old woman in the state of Chhattisgarh was gang raped by 5 men, one of whom was the driver of a police emergency response vehicle. What do you do when the people meant to transport victims of crime are the same people committing them? The men took her to a deserted house and took turns assaulting her. She was found unconscious. 2 of the men were taken into custody, the rest fled. In Bihar, 2 men are in judicial custody, and a fast-track trial has been recommended. But the victim said 3 or 4 men were in that ambulance, and as of the latest reports, more suspects are still being hunted. In Lucknow, the ambulance assistant was arrested and confessed. But the driver, who apparently started it all, disappeared, and police haven't been able to find him even after multiple raids. In Faridabad, 2 men sit in jail while the woman they assaulted is still recovering from multiple surgeries. None of these cases have reached a verdict yet. And if India's track record is any guide, justice won't come quickly. The rape conviction rate in India was 27.8% in 2022. In many state courts, over 90% of cases are still stuck in the system. The average criminal trial takes about 6 years, and the vast majority of sexual violence cases are never reported at all. And after the Bihar case, people asked the obvious question: what is being done? In 2016, the government piloted the Mahila Police Volunteer Program in Haryana. Female volunteers deployed at the grassroots level to help women report violence. It's been approved for other states since then. But when you look at the scale of the problem, 86 rapes reported per day, a police force that was only 11.75% female in 2022, and a court system that takes years to process cases. A volunteer program doesn't feel like enough. What happened to A wasn't a freak accident. It was a failure of every safeguard that was supposed to exist. She fainted during a government-organized event. She was placed in an ambulance that was stationed there in case someone needed help. She was driven by people who were right there at the same recruitment ground, people who had seen her collapse, who knew she was unconscious, who understood she was completely helpless. And nothing, not a monitoring system, not a camera inside the vehicle, not any kind of protocol was set up to protect her. The woman in Lucknow watched her husband die because an ambulance crew decided her body was worth more to them than his life. And one of those men is still free. The woman in Faridabad trusted a vehicle with a red cross on it and ended up in a hospital bed with 12 stitches on her face and a fractured shoulder. These women are not statistics. They are people who asked for help and were failed every single time. A wanted to be a police officer. She wanted to protect people. Instead, the very system she was trying to join failed to protect her. So what do you think? Let me know in the comments below, and that is all for today. Thanks for watching.